Hi, everybody. Let's see here. Yes, we are here. Okay, hi, everybody. This is Chassi Rifkin from mikvah.org, and we're so excited to welcome you all to our online sphere classes. We know that everyone is at home during this stage of Corona, which we hope won't last too much longer, but we felt that we would like to present you with some hashkafa, learn about things that happen in regular times and now. The customs of a wedding don't that much, even if the wedding party looks really different now. So whether you're a single girl watching or an engaged person getting ready for a COVID-related wedding, or just a mother wanting to refresh why we do what we do at our weddings, that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. So I am really happy to welcome you all tonight and to introduce to you Mrs. Ita Broh. Mrs. Broh is one of our certified Kala teachers, certified by mikvah.org, which means she went through a lot of training in many related fields, making her a Kala teacher par excellence. And so without any further ado, it's on customs of a wedding, the whys and what's according to Chassidic thought.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We are going tonight our topic is, we're going to be talking about a most auspicious day in people's lives, right? The day of the Chasana. So what we'll first do is we'll first go through more of a general hashkafa, or a general idea behind why a wedding day is so powerful and is so auspicious. And then we'll go through more specifically what is done, different minhagim in the lead up to the wedding day, during the wedding itself, and try to understand at least some of the meaning behind it. So I'd like to start off by quoting a letter of the Rebbe regarding a chasana. I'll actually read the words in Hebrew and I'll translate it because I think it's just quite fitting for this class. So the Rebbe writes, Yom HaChasana Bechlal, which means the wedding day in general. V'shas HaChasana, and the time of the marriage, Ha'amida Tachas HaChuppah, which is when you stand under the chuppah bifrat specifically. Hainam Shas Eis Ratzon is a time of an Eis Ratzon. Zman Skula Lamaila, a treasured time above. Lachain, therefore, al hachasin v'hakala lehiskoinin hativ, the chasin and the kala should prepare well, likras hayoim hagado b'chayehem, for this great day in their lives. Lishmar al yoiker hazman, they should guard the preciousness of the time, ba'ofen miyuchad, in a special way. Ulaharbeis b'nesinas tzedakah, and they should increase in their giving of tzedakah, tefillah, in their davening, va'amiras tehillim, and saying of tehillim. Being that the wedding is such a particularly auspicious, precious, powerful day, Baruch Nis, it's important for the chassan and kala, while they're engaged, to prepare for that day, obviously, you're very busy with more of a gashmias preparations, whether it's setting up your home or what you're going to wear, whatever. But it's very important to prepare in a spiritual sense through tzedakah, extra davening, extra tehillim, etc. Now, being that a chasana is so powerful and so potent, it's the minhagim that we have, the Yiddish minhagim, the Chassidic minhagim, the minhagim of the Rabbeim, that enable us to tap into the meaning of the day and enable us to channel the energy properly. Now, when it comes to the minhagim of the wedding, there's really, generally speaking, when it comes to what we do during a wedding, there generally is not just one reason behind whatever it is that we do. There's usually a whole lot of different explanations and reasons. Now, I would say layers of meaning, many layers of meaning behind much of these minhagim that we do. And in general, if you like, again, before we get to the specifics, let's just understand this in a general way. In general, the minhagim of the wedding, they can follow several themes. There are several themes that you do see throughout many of the minhagim that we do in the wedding. So, for example, one theme would be a Rosh Hashanah theme, meaning Rosh Hashanah was actually the day of the first wedding. Rosh Hashanah was the sixth day of creation, when Adam and Chava were both created, when they got married. So this was the day of the first wedding. And if you look at there's a midrashim that describe the creation of Adam and Chava and the marriage of Adam and Chava. It's from these details that we actually learn out, or this is part of the reason behind several of the minhagim, several of the things that we do for by every Jewish wedding. We're kind of remembering the very first wedding, in the beginning of creation, the wedding of Adam and Chava. So, for example, just to give you a few examples, the Medrash describes how after Hashem created Adam and Chava, he adorned Chava, he made her look beautiful, I believe even braided her hair, and then presented Chava to Adam. He didn't just present Chava to Adam, but they had shushvinin, they had escorts. Hashem escorted Chava, and Malach Michal and Malach Gabriel escorted Adam. They had an escort, shushvin, right? They were escorted to each other. The Medrash also describes how Hashem set up canopies and they stood under a chuppah. So this is actually part of there are other reasons for standing under the chuppah, and there are other reasons for the shushvinin or the escorts. But this, you see, some of the minhagim of the wedding is kind of a throwback or a reminder of this very first wedding in Rosh Hashanah. But on a deeper level, Chassidus explains what Rosh Hashanah is all about on a deeper level, and that also adds a lot of insight into the power of a wedding. Chassidus explains that Rosh Hashanah is called the Rosh Hashanah, the head of the year, as opposed to Tchilas Hashanah, the beginning of the year. And the reason for that is that Rosh Hashanah is not just a New Year's or the beginning of the year, but the major element of Rosh Hashanah is that this is just like the head contains and provides the energy for the entire body, the energy for the entire year, everything that will happen, all of the brachos, all of the energy for the coming year is all created and generated on Rosh Hashanah. And in a similar way, the same sort of idea exists by every Jewish wedding. It is similar to Rosh Hashanah in the sense that when a couple stands under the chuppah and gets married, it is at that point that that all of the brachos and the energy that for their rest of their life together is created and generated at that time. That's the Rosh Hashanah theme. You also have several of the minhagim of the wedding will follow a Yom Kippur theme. For example, on a wedding, that's when you fast, right? We know it's traditionally, it's a fast day. There's a whole concept of forgiveness, right? Chazal teach us that when somebody gets married, they are forgiven for all of their sins. This is also part of the reason, or at least one of the reasons why we wear white, right? Why a kala wears white, or a chassan wears a kittel. Part of the reason is to represent this purity from sin. So this would all follow with the whole Yom Kippur, the forgiveness, a day of forgiveness theme. Now, again, on a deeper level, if we understand what Chassidus has to say about Yom Kippur, that also helps us to glean some more insight into the uniqueness of a wedding. Chassidus explains that what's going on in Yom Kippur and the reason why it is such a special day, the reason why it is a day of forgiveness, is because this is a day on which a Yid's neshama is revealed. A Jew's neshama, and even the essence of their neshama, is just naturally revealed and brought out. And when that happens, that is what causes and leads to the forgiveness. And in a deeper sense, this is really also connected to what is really going on by a Jewish wedding.
Mommy, my room looks like it's red.
All right, I think you might need to go to bed though. Sorry about that. Okay, so this is really connected to what's going on by every Jewish wedding. That in essence, the true true accomplishment of a Jewish wedding is that it's not just affecting some sort of connection or some sort of connection between a man and woman, but the connection is such a deep one because it's a soul connection. There's a soul unity. Chassidus explains, this is based on what it says in Zohar, that just like when it came to Adam and Chava, at least according to one explanation, Adam and Chava were originally created as one. They were created as one being, kind of back to back. And then at some point, Hashem separated the two of them into two separate individual people who then came together as a married couple. In a spiritual sense, this happens with every Jewish couple. Originally, their neshamas were created as one. And then at some point, the neshamas were split up, with half entering the body of a little baby boy and half giving life to a little baby girl. And they each are their own individual, separate person, leading their own lives and having their own journey until ultimately they find each other and they reunite as a married couple under the chuppah. So the real accomplishment of the major accomplishment of every Jewish marriage is that this is a reunion of souls. It's a revelation of it's a revelation of the deep soul connection that this couple has. So again, if Yom Kippur is all about, in a deeper level, if Yom Kippur is all about revealing the neshama, revealing a yid's neshama, in a similar sense, a wedding also reveals the real neshama, reveals this soul connection that had always existed from even before this couple was born. Another theme that you have by a wedding is a Matan Torah theme. There are many different minhagim that we do at a wedding, also as to remind us of Matan Torah. So, for example, just to give you a few examples, by Matan Torah, the Torah describes how there was flashes of lightning and a fire on top of the mountain, and this is one of the reasons why we traditionally have torches that are held when the chassan and kala are, or this is one of the reasons with torches that are held when the chassan and kala are led to the chuppah. By Matan Torah, you also had some sort of element of a chuppah, because the Medrash describes that the mountain was uprooted and lifted over the heads of Bnei Yisrael, and that was in a sense like the chuppah. The Medrash also compares the Torah to the ring, the kiddushin, to the ring that the husband uses to be mekadesh, to marry, to the ring that basically connects and that marries the husband and the wife. So there's also the concept of Matan Torah of the Shush. By Matan Torah, there was also Shushvinin and escorts. The Yidden were escorted to the mountain. So there is a whole bunch of, again, many of the minhagim and the things that we do by a wedding are there as a reminder of us, as a reminder of what happened at Matan Torah. The connection, and there is a deep connection between Matan Torah and a wedding, being that Matan Torah is compared to the wedding. Matan Torah is considered the kiddushin, the first step of the marriage between Hashem and Bnei Yisrael. And that is why in the future, by every individual Jewish marriage, we do certain things to kind of reenact that general wedding between Hashem and Bnei Yisrael. Now, there are other themes that we do see throughout a chasana. I'm not going to start going into that because we don't have all night. But we already certainly can see and get a taste of the uniqueness, the power, and the holiness of the wedding day. The wedding day we call Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We call it Yomim Noraim, which means days of awe. And the wedding day is like your general Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's kind of like the Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur for your entire life. So as much as it is, yes, certainly an extremely joyous day and a very exciting day, there's also certainly a real element of seriousness. It's also a day of awe. And a day that we approach, with what word would I use? I don't know, trepidation. That might be a bit too much of a strong word, but there is certainly a sense of awe or awesomeness about the wedding day, and it's comparable again to Matan Torah, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. So certainly a most powerful day of anybody's life, and a day that's why the Rebbe says a day that we should be preparing for properly and taking quite seriously. So before we get to the actual specific minhagim of the wedding, I'd first like to spend a little bit of time talking about certain minhagim that are done in the lead up to the wedding. Let's talk specifically about the week before the wedding. So the week before the wedding, firstly, one important thing to keep in mind is that it is important to give extra tzedakah in general throughout the engagement period, and especially once you're getting really close in the week before the wedding. This is actually one really consistent ha'ira of the Rebbe, that the Rebbe would tell every chassan and kala over and over. Whenever, the Rebbe would always tell every chassan and kala to add in tzedakah when you're engaged, certainly on the wedding day for sure, and even in the lead up to the wedding day. It is extremely important to add in tzedakah. There's obviously much significance to tzedakah, but one of the I guess major reasons behind this is that just like Hashem acts in a way that's measure for measure. So when you give tzedakah and add in tzedakah and give extra tzedakah and you show kindness to another Jew, to another person, Hashem will reflect that and show you extra chesed and extra kindness in return. And that's why tzedakah is certainly very important in the lead up to the wedding day. We also have a minhag that in the week before the wedding, there should be no contact between the chassan and kala. No contact means you don't see each other, you don't meet with each other, you don't speak to each other, and there should be no messaging each other with texting or WhatsApping or anything like that. There should be no contact between the chassan and kala. Now, there are some differences of opinion amongst Rabbanim as to exactly how long should there not be any contact between the chassan and kala. Some Rabbanim say a week and a day. Some Rabbanim say from whenever the kala does her hefsek tara. Let's say she does the hefsek tara earlier on. So I guess you can always refer to your own Rav and get some more clarity on that. But there certainly is this minhag that in the lead up to the wedding day and the week beforehand, there should be no contact between the chassan and kala. We also have a minhag. I believe this is a Chassidic minhag, not just a Lubavitch minhag, to have shmira, to have a shomer in the week before the wedding. Now, there are differences of opinion as to exactly how many days or how long do you need to have a shomer for. There are it's a couple of sources say different things. So some say that you should have a shomer for kama yomim, for several days before the wedding. And some people do shmira for the entire week, a whole week before the wedding. It's important to note. So again, you can, speak to your own Rav and try to work out what is the proper amount of time, if it should be a full week or a few days. But our minhag is to have a shomer before the wedding. It is important to note that the shmira, the shomer that you have before the wedding, is different, a little bit different than the shmira that we customarily have after the wedding. During Sheva Brachas, a chassan and kala also have a shomer. They also have this, I guess, escort or guardian when they go out. The difference lie there's a different reason behind the two. When it comes to the shomer after the wedding, in the week of Sheva Brachos, the reason for that is basically for the sake of kavod. This shomer is an honor guard, being that a chassan and kala are compared to a king and queen. A king and queen, or somebody very, very important, does not leave their house without an escort or without somebody with them. So that's why, in order to add to their honor and give them honor, they have a shomer. But this shomer is only for when they go out, only for when they leave their house. When they're at home, there's no need for a shomer. On the other hand, before the wedding, on the other hand, the reason for the shomer is different. The reason for the shomer is actually literally for protection. This is based as a more Kabbalistic concept that in the lead up to the wedding, being that the wedding day is, as we discussed, so spiritually powerful. It's a day which generates so much kedusha. Wherever you have kedusha or potential for a lot of kedusha, you'll have some negative forces, or what we'll call mazikim, that will kind of try to hang around and take advantage of this this power of all of this holiness. So in order to protect the chassan and kala, literally protect them from these mazikim, from these negative forces, you should have another Jew that's near you, and that helps to protect the chassan and kala. So being that the shmira before the wedding is for the sake of protection, and therefore it is important for a chassan and kala to have a shomer, both not only when they go outside, not only when they go outdoors, but also when they're at home. It doesn't mean that the shomer needs to be right at your side the whole entire time. You can sleep in your own room, but it means that you shouldn't be home alone. You shouldn't be the only person at home or the only person in a particular place. You should have another Jew that is with you. Okay, that's all regarding the minhag of the shomer. Now, the Shabbos before the wedding, there are a couple of relevant minhagim. Traditionally, the chassan is called up to the Torah. He gets an aliyah to the Torah. The Rebbe explains the reason behind that and says that as a preparation, the greatest preparation for a marriage is to connect oneself to the Torah. Right? If the goal of your marriage, or if you'd like your marriage to be founded upon Torah and mitzvahs, so as a preparation for that, the chassan is called up to the Torah, and not only is he called up to this, he's connecting himself to Torah, but he's connecting himself to Torah in a way of Kabbalah's all, meaning when you're reading from the Torah, you're not necessarily understanding. The goal is not to understand what's being read. The goal is just to say the words. So that represents Kabbalah's all as opposed to understanding. And this is a most fitting and a proper preparation for the wedding. If I may add, I guess perhaps I'll say that nowadays when minyanim, when Rabbanim say that you should not be, shuls need to be closed, we shouldn't be having minyanim, I guess by not having a minyan or not being called up to the Torah, by having that Kabbalah's all, that would probably have the same sort of effect. But there's also, when it comes to the kala, the minhag for the minhag on the Shabbos before the wedding is for the kala to have a Shabbos kala, some sort of gathering in her home where family and friends come over. Now, obviously, again, Shabbos kalas nowadays would certainly be scaled back. You would basically just have your family, your family there. But really, the point and the goal of the Shabbos kala is not just about throwing a party and sitting around and talking, but the point of the Shabbos kala is for the kala to receive brachos, for whoever is there to give the kala brachos, and for the kala to say amen. Being that the Zohar explains that Shabbos is the source of bracha. Shabbos gives brachos to the entire week. to the coming week. So when the Kala, who's also compared to Shabbos, when on the Shabbos before the wedding, the Kala receives brachos from other people, this helps, this kind of adds to the brachos that she will receive in the coming week on her wedding day. So this can certainly, again, be accomplished, I'm sure, if a Kala is at home with her family and the family gives her brachos. That would be that would be the same. That would be fulfilling that minhag, or really the main point and the main goal of the minhag of the minhag of the Shabbos Kala. Now let's get to the day of the wedding itself and start going through minhagim of the wedding and trying to understand, or give a little bit of trying to understand at least some of the meaning, some of the layers of meaning between these minhagim. So firstly, as I've already mentioned a little bit, the wedding day there is a minhag to fast, for the chassan and kala to fast on their wedding day. If they're getting married on Rosh Chodesh, then they don't fast on the wedding day. You'll fast beforehand, I guess, in lieu of the wedding day. If your wedding is on some other days in which fasting would be questionable, like on Isru Chag or Purim, Shushan Purim, Hanukkah, Tu B'Shvat, then you should ask a shaila regarding when you should be fasting. In general, if you don't fast well, ask a shaila whether it's important, whether you should be fasting. This a fast, like I mentioned, it's a minhag. It's not a halacha. So that's why if you, for example, if you need to, you're allowed to brush your teeth. That's not a problem. If you're taking some sort of pill or medication, not a problem. You can take that pill. If you need to take a little bit of water with it in order to be able to swallow that pill, you can have it as well. But other than that, you should be fasting. Now, there certainly are multiple reasons given behind this minhag to fast, but one major reason is, like we've mentioned before, kind of fitting with the whole theme of Yom Kippur. Your wedding day is kind of like the general Yom Kippur of your life. It is a day of forgiveness. It's a day of atonement. So this fast is a fast of tshuva. Is part of the, I guess, tshuva process of the wedding day. It's on this day that you're supposed to be rising above your physical desires and focusing more on the neshama. And with that, in that spirit, we fast. That's the minhag of fasting. Now, when you're davening on your wedding day and throughout Sheva Brachos, actually, throughout the entire Sheva Brachos, the chassan and kala do not recite tachanun. First, I should have probably mentioned this minhag first. Very important on your wedding day, again, to give tzedakah, to add in tzedakah, to give, to increase in tzedakah from your own personal money. This is, again, like I said, an extreme, the Rebbe would always give this hara to every chassan and kala. It's very important to give tzedakah on your wedding day. It's also a very good idea to try and remind other people, your family members, your friends, whoever it is, whether they'll be at your wedding, whether they won't be at your wedding, to participate by giving tzedakah in your schus. To have as many people as possible who will give a little bit of extra tzedakah in the schus of your wedding. So if you can have, let's say, at your wedding, at the head table or at every table, a tzedakah pushka with some coins, and remind people to give tzedakah, that is certainly that's certainly a great schus, and that's certainly something that is encouraged. We have a minhag. There is a minhag to go to Kivrei Tzadikim on your wedding day. So for us, that would mean to go to the Oihel on your wedding day. The inyan is to specifically go on the day of the wedding, meaning not, obviously it's always good to go to the Oihel, but this minhag is not to go a few days before, but to go on the day of the wedding. If the day of the wedding is too hectic, I guess the night before can also count as the day. But that is the special minhag that we have. Now, when you go to the Oihel, or if you live out of town, then you can't go to the Oihel, but you'll just be sending in a pan. This is certainly a very, every pan is important, but this is a particularly significant and important pan in which you'll be writing all of the bakashos, all of the requests, everything that you would like to be blessed with on your wedding day for the rest of your life. So it might be a good idea to kind of, I guess, work on that pan for a few days beforehand or during the week before the wedding, to be working on a draft of your pan. Like if you in that week beforehand see if you're able to think of something else that is important, that you would like, that you need, something that you'd like to request, to just to jot that down and add that to the draft of your pan, so that when it comes time to actually go to the oihel or to actually sit down and write that pan, you've already really thought it through and you've got a clear idea of what you'd like to write and what you'd like to request in this extremely significant pan that you're going to write. Now, on the wedding day, this is certainly a day of not just, again, mention increasing in tzedakah, increasing in tefillah, and increasing in tehillim. Right? We have a minhag to say the whole tehillim. Now, the idea behind saying the whole tehillim is that the Frierdiker Rebbe, when his daughters got married, he gave his daughters a list of specific kapitulach, specific chapters of Tehillim to say that I guess are particularly auspicious or related to the wedding day. Apparently, we don't know what these kapitulach are. And that's why, in order to cover all bases, we make a very strong effort to say the whole Tehillim, and in that way, we've said all of those important kapitulach. So there is the idea is, again, so there's really two elements. First of all, if you saying the whole Tehillim, so that you know that you've said those special kapitulach that the Frierdiker Rebbe indicated. And certainly there's, again, just the general idea in adding in tefillah, in adding in tehillim, and making sure to take advantage of every moment of this day, that you don't, just to, to not to waste time, to make sure to fill every moment of the day with as much teichen as possible. And that's why if you're good at, if you're quicker at saying Tehillim and you've already finished saying Tehillim, you can start saying Tehillim again, right? The idea is you want to try to just, at every opportunity that you have, as much as you can, to fill with teichen and to fill with meaning. So if you've got a little bit of spare time between taking pictures or whatever it is, you can be saying Tehillim then. Even if you're spending some time, let's say, getting your hair done or getting your makeup done, you can try to say Tehillim or have some earphones in your ear and listen to something Teichendik, because again, there's the element of saying Tehillim, and there's also just the general idea of trying to take advantage of every moment, and trying to make the day as meaningful as possible. Now, as the wedding day progresses, right, once it gets close to your Kabbalah's Panim, you make sure before the Kabbalah's Panim, unless you're having the Kabbalah's Panim much earlier in the day, but generally speaking, before the Kabbalah's Panim would be Mincha time. The Mincha of the Chasana, the day of the Chasana, is a very special Mincha. It is, in Sefer Menhagim, it says you should be davening Mincha b'kavana atzuma, which means with a lot of kavana, right? Daven mincha b'kavana atzuma, daven mincha with a lot of kavana on this wedding day. And this mincha is just like the mincha of, it actually is exactly the mincha of Erev Yom Kippur. You could even just use a machzor of Yom Kippur and daven the mincha of Erev Yom Kippur. It's basically, in what you say, it's more or less this, you say regular karbanos and ashrei and shmona esrei, and then before Elokai Nitzar, you'd be saying the entire al chet, just as you say on Erev, just as you say on Erev Yom Kippur, and on Yom Kippur itself, you also say the Al Chet. So it's a special mincha. It's we add the entire vidoy, the entire Al Chet in this mincha. Again, really fitting with this whole Yom Kippur theme and with the whole theme of forgiveness and of tshuva. Now, at the Kabbalah's Panim, right, usually Mincha is daven kind of close to, Mincha is daven close to the Kabbalah's Panim, or just before the Kabbalah's Panim. Just during the Kabbalah's Panim, generally speaking, on the Kala side, on the women's side, there's usually not that much going on. It's just, the Kala says Tehillim when she has a spare moment, and whoever's at the wedding, she'll greet her guests. People will tell her Mazel Tov, and that's basically what's going on the Kala side. On the Chassan side, there's more happening at the Kabbalah's Panim, so I'll just quickly go through what goes on over there. On the Chassan side, generally speaking, they'll sign the Tnaim, at least in Chabad circles, will sign the Tnaim, and the Tnaim will be read out loud. Now, the Tnaim is basically a document in which the Chassan and Kalda, in which the couple commits to marrying each other. They say, we are going to marry each other on this specific day. They commit to marrying each other. And there are other communities in which Tnaim are signed very early on in the engagement. In Chabad, we are careful not to sign the Tnaim early on. We do because then it's a big problem if the engagement is broken off, but we do keep the minhag of the Tnaim. However, we wait until the actual wedding day. That's when it will be signed, and that's when the Tnaim are read. After the Tnaim are read, those are traditionally the two mothers, mother of Chassan, mother of Kala, they break the plate, and after that, the Chassan will say the special mimer again in minhag that the Chassan has a special that he says. So they'll say a mimer niggin, and the Chassan says a mimer, always the same mimer. It's called lichodoidi. This mimer that the Rebbe said, based on, which is expounding upon the Frierdiker Rebbe's mimer. The Frierdiker Rebbe said a lichodoidi mimer of the same name, at the Rebbe's wedding, and I believe it was 25 years later, on the Rebbe's 25th wedding anniversary, the Rebbe said, the Rebbe said his own mimer lechadoidi, explaining the Frierdiker Rebbe's mimer. So this is the set mimer that the Chassan says. Now this is a very, the Rebbe was actually very particular that the Chassan should say the entire mimer and not just parts of it. The Chassan should say the entire mimer. The idea behind it is that this, aside for it being a beautiful, very fitting mimer, if you have time, for sure, try and learn it. It includes teachings from all of the Rabbeim. Rebbe includes teachings from Baal Shem Tov, the Maggid, Alter Rebbe, from all of the Rabbeim is incorporated within this mimer. Now it is known, it's written in Sfarim, that by every chassanah, the chassan and kala, there's 3 neshamas from 3 generations back attend the wedding. So the chassan and kala, their parents, their grandparents, and their great-grandparents are always at the wedding. Sometimes they're either there at the wedding physically, but if they're not at the wedding physically, even if they're not there, their neshamas are there. The neshamas from 3 generations back attend each Jewish wedding. Now, when the Chassan says this special mimer, which incorporates teachings from all of the Rabbeim, this is like an invitation that invites the neshamas also of all of the Rabbeim to come to and to attend the wedding as well. So the Chassan says the mimer, and after he completes the mimer, that is when they start singing the niggin of the Alter Rebbe, Daled Bavos, which in Chabad is regarded as the most special and the most holy niggin, that we only we reserve it for special occasions. such as by a wedding. So they start singing the niggin of the Alter Rebbe and the Daled Bavos, and that is when the chassin is brought to the kala's side for the badekim to come and to come and to cover her face. Now there are various reasons for why the chassin covers the kala's face. One very basic reason is it's like kind of an act of modesty. We're also emulating Rivka Imenu, who covered her face when she first met Yitzchak. There's a more halachic element to it, that in this way the chassin can be kind of fulfilling one of his obligations as a husband to clothe his wife. So he puts some sort of garment. He puts some sort of garment on her. But there also is a concept, this is brought down in the Zohar, that when the kala, at least during the chuppah, the Shechina rests on the kala's face. And this is the reason why in Chassidic communities, the veil that the kala wears is an opaque veil. It's not see-through. Being that if the Shechina is on the kala's face, one is inappropriate for people to gaze directly at such kedusha and to gaze directly at the Shechina. It's kind of like the paroiches that covers the Kodesh HaKodashim. So you have this opaque veil over the kala's face. So the chassin comes and covers the kala's face with the veil. You do have in some other communities, they do have a minhag that the kala needs to specifically, it's important for the kala to look at the chassin before he covers her face. This is not particularly our minhag. And after the kala's face is covered, this is the time also the fathers or the grandfathers, our dear grandfathers, will bench the kala, and it's a very beautiful and special time. Now, again, you'll probably have some time as a kala. There will be, some time between the badekin and until you actually go out to the chuppah, or in the car, or walking, or however you're getting to the chuppah. There's certainly some time in between. And again, you'd like to take advantage of every moment. Keep on saying Tehillim, keep on davening, and requesting whatever it is that you would like to request. Now, before the chuppah, in this interim time, there is there's a minhag for the chassin to, aside for the special things that he wears, for the chassin to untie any knots on him. So let's say his shoelaces or the knot of his tie, that's supposed to be untied. And we also have a minhag for the kala to remove any jewelry that she's wearing. The reason for that is because is so that the ring that she's going to be given under the chuppah should be the most valuable thing that she is wearing. So that's why she removes any of that jewelry. Now let's start talking about the most important and the central part of the wedding, which is the chuppah. Right, so the term chuppah is a term that's used to describe the method or the ceremony through which a man and woman become husband and wife. Right, we call that chuppah. There are various different ways in which that can be done. Traditionally, the way that we practice this, the method and the ceremony that we use, that has been used for many, many, many generations, is that the chassan and kala, the chuppah is a certain canopy that the chassan and kala stand under. They stand under a canopy, and under this chuppah, when they stand under the chuppah, that's where and when the marriage will take place. So let's talk a little bit about the significance of the chuppah. The chuppah, firstly, it's shaped. It's kind of supposed to be shaped like a home, and that's why it symbolizes, and it really is, when the chassan and kala stand under that chuppah, that is symbolizing the fact that they are setting up a home together. To get more specific, the chuppah is more shaped like a home that's open on four sides, which is the idea is kind of to remind us of Avraham Avinu's tent that was also a home open on all four sides. And this is supposed to be an expression of the couple's desire and commitment to set up a home similar to Avraham Avinu, a home of chesed, a home that's open, a home that's open to guests and open to helping other people. This is the type of home, this is the type of Jewish home that we should be looking to set up. And more of a Kabbalistic, and a more Kabbalistic explanation of the chuppah is that being that the chuppah kind of hovers over both the chassan and the kala, it represents what's known as an or makif. An or makif, which literally means a transcending light. In other words, a certain spiritual energy, which is a spiritual energy that is above, that kind of transcends the world, which is above the limitations of our world, above the limitations of nature. That's what an or makif is representing. Now, Hasidus always explains that when you have two things, two opposite forces, in order for them to be able to unite and to be able to come together, it requires a higher power. You need to have something that's higher than the two of them, that's greater power to unite two different, separate, even opposite entities. And it's the same idea that really relates to the whole concept of a chuppah on a spiritual level. Under the chuppah, what's going on is that this man and woman are going to be united. They are going to get married. Now, as much as we did say that, yes, they are two halves of one whole, that their neshamas were originally one, right? As much as, yes, they are two halves of one neshama, they still are two different halves. They still are quite different, right? Two people that are quite different. And in order to be able to combine and unite the two of them, that requires the chuppah, that requires the power of the chuppah, the power of that or makif, that very, that's really the strong, limitless spiritual power. That's what's able to combine these two half neshamas. Our minhag is for the chuppah to specifically be held outdoors, underneath the sky. There are several reasons for it. There's firstly the concept that the sky, the shamayim, is considered to be a source of bracha. It's a source of blessings. The sky is also, when you stand outside the sky or under the stars are like a reminder of Hashem's promise to Abraham that his descendants will be as numerous as the stars of the sky. So standing under the chuppah outside under the sky is supposed to increase the brachos for the chassan for the chassan and kala. And like the Rebbe, and like I've already mentioned in that letter of the Rebbe that we started off with, the Rebbe said specifically when we're talking about the Eis Rotzon, this special, this treasured special time above, or a special time to daven, is on the wedding day, and specifically when you stand under the chuppah. The time of the chuppah is an Eis Rotzon. It's an opportune time. It's an opportune time for davening, but it's not only for the chassan and kala. It's not just that it's a special, the chassan and kala have some special power to daven under the chuppah, but it's really an eis ratzon for everybody that is there. Anybody that's standing under the chuppah, anybody that's there watching the chuppah, anybody that's there attending the chuppah is able to tap into this opportune special time and is able to take advantage of this opportunity for davening, and that's why we have, when it comes to that's why when it comes to when the chassan and kala stand under the chuppah, the Rebbe says that it's not our minhag for the chassan and kala to collect kvitalach, which means notes in which people write their names and their requests or whatever it is that they want. In other communities, the chassan and kala will start really collecting everybody's names and everybody's requests to be davening for everybody. But the Rebbe says that's not particularly our minhag, because the time of the chuppah is an eis ratzon for everybody that's there. So yes, of course, if somebody gives you a name or gives you something to have in mind or to daven for, then of course that's, try to have that name in mind and try to daven for that person. But you really don't need to go around and asking people or start collecting this massive list of names to daven for. Your focus should be primarily really to daven for yourself, for your own marriage, for your own future, all of those things that you had listed and requested in your pan to take advantage of the entire time of the chuppah and keep on davening. Again, really mainly for yourselves and yourself and your own desires. Anybody else who's at the chuppah can also daven for themselves as well. The chassan and kala now. 1 minute, again, I've already mentioned this, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. The chassan and kala are led to the chuppah. They don't walk there by themselves, but we have a minhag of shushvinin, which means escorts. They're led to the chuppah. They have 2 escorts, could be more, but the minhag is specifically 2. 2 people that are leading them and escorting them to the chuppah. The Rebbe explains in a sicha the reason behind the shushvinim, what the whole idea is. And the Rebbe explains that the shushvinim are basically support people. They're there in order to give that encouragement and support to the chassan and kala who are taking this huge step and embarking on a very new journey in their lives. So you have support, you have people that have already been there and already gone through that stand at their side to give them support. And that's why it's important for the shushvinim, for the escorts, to be married, to be like a married couple. So there are the traditionally widespread Chabad minhag is for the shushvinim, for the chassan to be escorted by 2 men, and for the kala to be escorted by 2 women, who are the wives of the men who escorted the chassan. Again, married couples. So it's, it could be the parents of the chassan and kala, or it could be any other married couples. The widespread Chabad minhag, the chassan is escorted by 2 men and the kala is escorted by 2 women. Now, traditionally also, I've already mentioned this minhag, but I'll talk about it a little bit more. The shushvinim, the escorts, also carry torches. They carry this flame. They carry torches in their hands. There's lots of different reasons brought down for these torches that they carry. One we've already mentioned. It's kind of a reminder of the lightning and the flashes of lightning and the fire of Matan Torah. But there are other reasons as well. There's the general idea that light is supposed to bring to joy, or it's a symbol of joy. There's also, if you have the chassan and kala have 2 escorts, right? So that each of whom are carrying a candle. What you have there is you have 2 candles, right? Ner and ner. The gematria of 2 ner, right? Ner and ner is 500, which is the same gematria as the term pru urvu, which means to be fruitful and multiply. So again, I guess some sort of skula for pru urvu for children. There's also the concept, again, if you have ner and ner, that 500, which is the gematria 500, these 2 candles also represent the unity between a husband and wife, being that it is explained that a man has 248 limbs, and a woman has 252 limbs. So when they come together, the hayu lebasar echad, as one flesh, you have 500 limbs. That 500 again. So the 2 candles represents this union of the husband and wife. So that's just a little bit of the explanations behind the torches or the candles that these shushvinim hold. Now let's go through what actually happens under the chuppah, or at least let's talk about the beginning, the order, the seder of the beginning of the chuppah. So the way it works is first, the chassan is led to the chuppah, right? You have the escorts, the shushvinim come and escort the chassan to the chuppah. Then he stands there alone. And then the kala is led to the chuppah, right, with her shushvinim, with her escorts. Once the kala comes under the chuppah, she circles the chassan 7 times. The shושבינים are also circling as well, but she goes around the chassan 7 times. And when she finishes these 7 circuits, she then stands on the right side of the chassan for the remainder of the chuppah. Right, so that's how the chuppah always starts off. Now, there's a beautiful letter of the Rebbe that I'll even read some lines from it. It's a letter that the Rebbe wrote on Rosh Chodesh Tammuz Tafshin Yud, which is actually before he officially became Rebbe, and it's addressed to a very big Chabad activist known as Mr. Sam Kramer. And Mr. Kramer had asked the Rebbe, about the significance of these minhagim, the beginning of the chuppah. He asked, why is it that the chassan goes first to the chuppah, and then the kala comes, and specifically the kala circles him? Why does she circle him 7 times? He wanted to understand what's going on and what's the reason behind it. And the Rebbe wrote back in English a beautiful letter, a beautiful letter explaining the whole thing. By way of introduction, the Rebbe first explained and gave as into the content, the Rebbe first brought down the concept from Zohar that I've already mentioned, that at a Jewish wedding is not just like a technical union, but it's actually a reunion of 2 half neshamas, right? These neshamas of the chassan and kala were originally one, and now after many years of separation, they're being reunited with each other, which can explain the great joy and the real big deal that we make out of the wedding, because this is a reunion after a very, very long time, a reunion of the neshamas of the chassan and kala. So even though, yes, they are 2 half neshamas, these 2 half neshamas are still quite different. You've got the masculine soul, or the masculine part of the soul, with its own unique qualities, and then you have the feminine part of the feminine soul with her own unique qualities. So the man and they are one. They are originally one soul. They are reuniting, but they're still different, and they've got their own different qualities and their different roles. Now, when they reunite under the chuppah, Rebbe says, to a certain extent, the marriage marks the beginning of a complete and full life. And being that this is like the beginning of a new life and the beginning of a complete life, we see that a wedding also connects with the whole theme of creation. It's connected to, just like when Hashem created the world, that was the beginning of life, the beginning of this complete, beautiful world, the beginning of life. Each marriage, in a sense, is like kind of a new creation, a beginning of a new life. And that's where you have the connection to the number 7. And Hashem created the world was created, the natural cycle, or the natural process of the creative process was very much connected with the number 7. You have, obviously, I guess most obviously is the 7 days of the week, the 7-day cycle of the week. So that's where you have the wedding. Every Jewish wedding will also kind of connect with that whole theme of creation. And this is a new creation, hence connected to the number 7. And then the Rebbe starts explaining, going back to the original question, and starts explaining the significance behind what we do under the chuppah. He says, under the chuppah, right, when you have this new home, this reunion, this kind of beginning of a new and complete life together, when the couple stands under the chuppah, the chassan goes first. The chassan is the one that stands under the chuppah first. And that is because, as he's the masculine part of the soul, he's the masculine half of the neshama, and it's a masculine trait and considered the role of a man to conquer, or the role of a man to actually take initiative in finding finding a wife, to take initiative in getting married. And therefore, when you're starting his new home, it's the man that goes to the chuppah first and that stands under the chuppah first. Once the chassan stands under the chuppah, the kala follows him, and she then makes circles around him. And I'll actually read inside a couple of lines from this letter. I think this is a particularly beautiful line. The Rebbe writes this. So when the bride is led to the chuppah, she proceeds to make a circle around the groom. This symbolizes the delineation in space of their own world within the outer world, with her husband to be at its center. I think it's a particularly beautiful because even if you're not a kala and you're not getting married, it's something. It's a good thing for every wife, mother, for every married woman to keep in mind. This is a very good reminder of what our role and what our goal is, that you're supposed to be creating, no matter what's going on in the outside world, no matter what society says, no matter what people's opinions are, or no matter what is being done, you're creating your own world within the outer world with your husband at center. This statement also does say a lot about the importance of privacy within a marriage. It really is emphasizing, when the kala is making these circles around the chassan, really is bringing out and expressing her goal or her intention, or what her role is in the setting up of this home. You're delineating your own world within the outer world, with your husband to be at the center. And when the kala circles the chassan 7 times, the significance of the number 7 is that she is giving her commitment, basically. She is committing to founding. She's the Akeres Habayis, the foundation of the home. So she is then committing to giving herself over to this marriage, and to giving herself over to this home, and giving herself over in a way equally on every day of the week and every day of the month, to found an edifice that would be complete on the first day of each and every week to come, as the second, third, etc., to the end of all times and seasons, a lasting and eternal edifice. And that's what is implied. That's the significance of the kala circling the chassan, and specifically doing it 7 times. And then the Rebbe ends off by saying, having completed the 7 circuits, she stands beside her husband-to-be in the center of the circle, for after the preparations for the building of their home, both of them, the husband and the wife, form its center. From here on, throughout the entire ceremony, both the bride and groom form the center of the holy ceremony, like a king and queen surrounded by a suite of honor. Their lives become united into one full and happy life, based on the one Torah given by the one God. So I just love that letter. I wanted to make sure to bring that in. Again, you really can start getting a nice taste of every single process of how every single step of the chasana and every single minhag, every part of the process has so much behind it and has so many layers of meaning. It's not just something that's done because, okay, let's just, let's have the chassan walk down this beautiful white carpet, and then there really is meaning, and much meaning behind every single step. So once the chassan and kala are at, the kala finishes those 7 circles, and she stands at the right side of the chassan. So you'll have then they start the actual ceremony, the ceremony under the chuppah. Somebody says mi'adir al hakol, kind of blessing Hashem, and you have. We'll read the letter of the Rebbe. You have, and then afterwards comes the main part, really the main part and the peak, the height of the wedding ceremony, which is when the chassan gives the kala the ring and says the words, Harei at mikudeshes li v'tabaz zu kedas Moshe v'Yisrael, right? With this ring, you are sanctified or set aside you're set aside for me, as according to the laws of Moshe and the Jewish people. So this is the reason why this is the most important part of the chuppah, is because, first of all, halachically, this is when the marriage happens. When the chassan gives the kala the ring or an item of value, and it's witnessed by two witnesses, that is what creates the marriage. That is when the marriage happens. In a spiritual sense, it's not just technical thing, but in a spiritual sense, that is also the moment that their neshamos are united or reunited with each other. So this is certainly the most powerful, the most important and significant part of the chuppah, when the chassan gives the kala the ring. Now, although halachically a man can marry a woman by giving her any item of value, even a small coin or any sort of item of value, there is a very, very ancient minhag is for the chassan to specifically give the kala a ring. This has been done for many, many years, but for sure 1,000 years. It's quite an ancient minhag. Now, there are many reasons behind why specifically a ring. Why do we do a ring? There's, for example, one basic reason given behind the ring is that when the chassan gives the kala a ring, and that's something that she'll always wear, it kind of serves as a constant reminder of her status as a married woman. So that's just one more like basic reason behind the ring. But the Rebbe does explain that regarding the ring, the primary reason for the ring is found in nistar, is not a nigla reason. It's more of a nistar. It's found in the hidden aspects of Torah. If you actually look in Zohar, there are many different reasons that are brought down for the ring. There are many reasons brought down in nistar of Torah. I'll give a couple of them. You have, for example, there's one idea that's brought down is that a ring is the same shape as a link of a chain. It's supposed to symbolize the link of a chain, which represents the fact that each wedding is adding another link in the chain of humanity that dates all the way back from Adam and Chava. There's also the ring, which is basically a circle with an empty space in the middle, is supposed to represent what Kabbalistically is known as the cholol. In Kabbalah, it's explained that before Hashem created the world, he first made a cholol, which means an empty space. He first concealed himself and created an empty space in which creation could take place. So this ring is also, the ring is also kind of embodies or represents the cholol in which creation can take place. There's also, the Rebbe explains that a tabas, a ring, represents the ultimate level of Ein Sof, of Hashem's infinity, being that it fuses and combines both the limitations of the world and the limitations of nature and that which is above nature. The ring, on the one hand, a ring represents that which is above nature and that which is above the world, being that, again, it's shaped like a circle. It's the same concept of makif that we mentioned earlier. It surrounds the person, it surrounds the finger. It's shaped like that circle, representing these spiritual powers of makif, which transcends nature, which is above limitations. On the one hand, a ring is all about makif. On the other hand, a ring is also connected to the limitations of the world, being that, first of all, everybody gets their ring fit to size. You don't just get any ring. You make sure that it's measured and it fits your specific finger. So firstly, it's made according to certain specifications, the specifications of the person's finger. Also, tabas, the Hebrew word tabas, it comes from the same root as the word teva, which means nature. So you see how a ring represents and kind of combines and fuses both that which transcends and which is above the limitations of the world, and that which is within or part of the limitations or the nature of the world. The combination, the fusion of the two represents the highest levels of godliness, right? Hashem himself, who can can combine two opposites, who can be within nature and above nature at the same time. So this ring really is symbolic of and represents some very, very powerful, it represents some very powerful ideas, very powerful, I guess, energies that exist at the time of the chuppah and at the time of the wedding. Now, our minhag is to use a gold ring, even though according to Kabbalah, there's more of an inyan to use silver. Our minhag is specifically to use a gold ring, and to use a ring that's plain, meaning just a plain round ring with no stones or no engravings. The reason why we make sure to use a plain ring is because it is important halachically for the object, for the ring, the object that the chassan is giving, to have a clear value. So when it has other things on it, some engravings or stones, then the value of the ring starts, it's a little bit unclear what that value is. That's why we just give a plain ring. The chassan gives a plain ring. The chassan places the ring on the kala's right index finger. There are a couple of different reasons behind it. There's that idea kind of also fits in with the whole theme of 7 and creation. That finger is going to be 7 fingers away from the chassan. Al pi Kabbalah also, the right index finger, again, I have to look this up and understand exactly why, but the right index finger is Kabbalistically supposed to also be related to intimacy as well. Now, right, and that's why, again, the chassan is going to place the ring on the kala's right index finger. When the chassan gives the kala the ring, right, which is, again, the most powerful and important part of the wedding, the chassan says the words, Harei at mikudeshes li, but the kala is silent. She doesn't respond. She doesn't say anything. She just silently accepts the ring. And the Rebbe actually has a sikha in which he explains this and the significance of this silence. The Rebbe asks, wouldn't it seem to be more appropriate for the kala to say something, to actually say something which that expresses her agreement or her happiness? And the Rebbe explains the significance of the silence by saying that this silence really expresses the idea of bittul. Bittul meaning self-nullification, literally, or a certain sense of humility, right? That's what the kala is expressing by not expressing anything, just by being silent. It's expressing bittul. And this is extremely important because this is really a foundation of having good shalom bayis, of the foundation of being able to have a good relationship and be able to have a good marriage, is that you need to have bittul. You need to get rid of your ego, or work on taming your ego in order to be able to have a good marriage. And that's why at the moment of the marriage, the kala is silent. After the chassan, when the chassan gives the kala a ring, I missed that one, but I didn't explain one important, I guess, more halachic aspect of the chuppah, which is that there are, halachically is considered to be two stages of a marriage. There's what's known as kiddushin or erusin, which is a first step in getting married, in which the kala is kind of set aside for her chassan and for her husband, but she is not yet actually at the stage of being able to live together with her husband as a married, as a married couple. So there's the kiddushin, which is step one of the marriage, and then there's the nisuin, which is the step two, halachically step two of the marriage. So generations back, this used to happen at two separate times, I believe. For many generations, they did it like a year apart. They would have the kiddushin first, and then like a year later, a second ceremony, which marked the nisuin, and that's when the chassan and kala started living together after the nisuin. Now we do for, again, at least the last 1,000 years or so, we've been doing the kiddushin, both steps together. Both the kiddushin and nisuin are done together under the chuppah. We do both step one and part one and part two, step one and step two of the marriage. So the kiddushin is accomplished through the chassan giving the kala the ring. That's again step one of the marriage. That's when the kiddushin is accomplished. The nisuin is done. Step two is when is done through saying the sheva. When the chassan and kala stand under the chuppah and the special brachos, the sheva brachos are read. That's when you have step two of the marriage. They're called, the sheva brachos are known as birchos hanisuin, the blessings on the nisuin. Again, the marriage, or specifically stage two, step two. Of getting married. Now, so again, we do both kiddushin and nisuin under the chuppah, and kind of to separate these two parts of the marriage. So in between is that the chuppah is read. So the chassan gives the kala, somebody is up and reads the chuppah is in which, I guess, lists rights of the wife, or it's there in order to ensure that men would not divorce for frivolous reasons. Again, I'm giving the whole background, but the ksuba is, and what's important to take note of, important for make sure that you don't lose ksuba, that it's being given after the chuppah, it's being given to a responsible person. You don't, if the is lost, if the kala where it is lost, then she is. Then the not permitted to live together. New ksuba is written, so that's just something important in mind. Make sure. So after the chuppah is in charge, the kala ksuba to somebody responsible. She'll know where it is when she'll know where it is when we go home. Now, again, the ksuba is read. We get part two of the chuppah, stage two, the special brachos, known as the shes, the 7 brachos. Or also known as the birchos hanisuin, right? The blessings of a marriage, the birchos hanisuin. Now, the Rebbe explains that these sheva brachos, that these 7 brachos, are not just they're not just there. It's not just like good wishes. We're trying to give, oh, you should be blessed with this and that. And these are all the good wishes that we wish for or wish upon the chassan and kala. But the sheva brachos is quite powerful when these brachos are read, when the brachos are said. They're there as a nesinas koyach. They actually give the chassan and kala the power and the ability to be able to fulfill these brachos, to be able to receive these blessings, to be able to fulfill these wishes that are expressed in the sheva brachos. So I'm going to, in the last, I think we've got about another 12 minutes or so until we have finish up, or at least until the questions. So in this last these last 12 minutes, I'd like to at least give a little taste or a little snapshot of the sheva brachos. Right, I'll expand of the sheva brachos. Right, what it is, what are these special brachos that are said, and it give a little bit of a little bit of an explanation of the Rebbe on each of the sheva brachos. Now, this is most of these explanations are coming from much longer sicha, right? A much longer explanation, but I'm just taking it out. I'm extracting a short vart on each one of the sheva brachos, just so you can have some basic, basic idea of the significance of these brachas. All right, so under the chuppah, the first bracha that is said under the chuppah is the bracha over wine, bracha boirei pri hagafen. In general, all of these brachas are said over wine. So you have a cup of wine. First, the first to say boirei pri hagafen, and then for each of the consecutive brachas, if you're calling up additional people, that bracha, the other brachas are also going to be recited over that same cup of wine. So firstly, we say the bracha boirei pri hagafen on wine, right? Wine, we know, is associated with joy. Wine helps people to rejoice and to be happy. Wine is also, Chazal say, nichnas yayin yatsa soid. When you drink wine, secrets come out. Wine is all about revealing that which was concealed, or that which was hidden before. And that kind of fits with the major theme and accomplishment of the wedding, which is that we are kind of bringing out and revealing the deeper connection, or that soul connection that that really had always existed between this chassan and kala. So we're going to start off with the bracha boirei pri hagafen, the bracha over wine. Now, the second bracha that is recited is the second bracha that is recited is Shehakol bara l'chavodo. We bless Hashem, Shehakol bara l'chavodo, which means that everything was created for His honor. Everything was created for His glory. And there is, again, this is part of a very, extensive, much longer sikha of the Rebbe. But the Rebbe explains that the reason why at a wedding we suddenly start talking about, or we even begin the bracha is pretty much with the bracha of Hakol bara l'chavodo, everything was created for Hashem's honor, is because this is imparting a very important message to the chassan and kala. This is telling the chassan and kala and reminding them that the reason why you're getting married, you're not getting married for your own, self-fulfillment. You're not getting married. You shouldn't be getting married just for personal pleasure. The reason why a Jew gets married should be Shehakol bara l'chavodo. Everything was created for Hashem's honor. We get married in order to bring honor to Hashem. We get married because this is a mitzvah. This is what Hashem commanded you to do. This is what Hashem wants you to do. You get married because, right, this is a mitzvah, and this is, you would like to build a home that will bring honor to Hashem. So this needs to be before you start up doing anything, this needs to be the foundation. This needs to be something that you keep in mind. And that's why we're starting off these brachas by saying, Shehakol bara l'chavodo. All right, bracha number 3, I'll do 3 and 4 together and explain it. The third bracha, we bless Hashem and we say, Yoitzer ha'adam, right? We bless Hashem who created man, created Adam, who created man. And then in the fourth bracha, it seems to be sort of a longer version of the third. What we say in the fourth bracha, we say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher yatzar ha'adam b'tzelem d'mustav nisai, who had created man in his image, right, in the image and the likeness of Hashem. V'hisken lo mimenu binyan adei ad, and he established, or he prepared for this man a binyan adei ad. He prepared a match for the man, right, who will establish this eternal home and an eternal edifice. And then we bless Hashem, Yotzer ha'adam, who created man. So the fourth bracha seems to be kind of an extended version of the third. Now what's explained is, the explanation behind these two brachas is that bracha number 3, Yotzer ha'adam, is blessing Hashem for creating Adam, the very first man, for creating Adam. And the bracha number 4, where we say who created man in his image and also prepared this binyan adei ad, we're benching Hashem for also creating Chava. And he didn't only create Adam, but he also created Chava, and then Adam and Chava together were able to create this binyan adei ad, a lasting home, a lasting edifice or binyan, or building, right? That's what bracha number 4 is coming to teach us. So the Rebbe asks the question: why do you need the third bracha? Right? I mean, if we're trying to thank Hashem or bench Hashem, thank you just say the fourth bracha, like, benching Hashem for creating Adam, and not just creating Adam, but creating him with a partner, creating him with Chava, who can create the binyan adei ad. what's the purpose of this? Why do you need the third bracha? What's going on over here? And what the Rebbe explains is that bracha 3 and bracha 4, these two brachos are expressing two steps in the creation of Adam and Chava, or two steps in the creation, of every married couple. And these are the two steps that we mentioned previously. We said that originally when Adam was created, right, he was just called Adam. But originally when Yotzer HaAdam, when Hashem created Adam, Adam was created as together with Chava. Adam and Chava were even physically created as one. That was step 1 of creation. Step 2 of creation is expressed in the 4th bracha. We bless Hashem for creating Adam in his image and preparing also a partner, this Hiskin Mimenu Binyan Ade'ad, for creating Adam and Chava. Step 2 is when Hashem separated this creation into two distinct people, into Adam and Chava, who can then come together and be reunited as a married couple. And again, this didn't just happen with Adam and Chava, but this is reenacted beruchnius, in a spiritual sense, with every couple. They're first created as one soul, and then they're split up into two separate people and two separate bodies, and they ultimately come together and are reunited under the chuppah. So these two brachos represent the two stages in the creation of Adam and Chava, and also the two stages when it comes in two stages, I guess, in the creation of every Jewish couple. And the reason why you need the two brachos is because really the only way the only way we have the power and the ability to have a true deep marriage, a real true deep connection and marriage, is because of that first bracha, is because originally we were created as one. Being that in truth we're one soul, and we're originally created as one, that's why you can really come together and can truly unite and have a real and have that real connection in a marriage. So that's where I think so far we've gone through the first 4 brachas. Bracha number 5, in the 5th bracha, we talk about, it says, Sois tasis v'sagal ha'akara, the akara, the barren woman, will rejoice. B'kibbutz b'neha l'soichel b'simcha, when her children are gathered in her with joy. Baruch, then we bless Hashem, misameach Tzion b'vaneha, who makes Tzion, which is Yerushalayim, who makes Yerushalayim rejoice with her children. Now, what this bracha is referring to, it's referring to Yerushalayim, the city of Eretz Yisrael, or specifically Yerushalayim, when Mashiach comes. During Galus, Yerushalayim is compared to a barren woman because she's like bereft of all of her children, of all the Jewish people. When Mashiach comes and there's kibbutz golius and all of the children, all of the Jewish people gather together and come back to Yerushalayim, that's when Yerushalayim rejoices. That's sois tasis v'sagal ha'akara. So that's the idea behind, that's the meaning behind this bracha, right? The simple, basic meaning behind the bracha. The Rebbe explains what's the connection to a wedding. Obviously, it's a very nice, beautiful bracha, but why are we specifically talking about, kibbutz galuyos Mashiach? Why are we talking about it by a wedding? And the Rebbe explains that this bracha is supposed to provide support and encouragement for the chassan and kala on their journey by telling them that all the effort that you put into getting married and establishing a Jewish home and making a beautiful home, a Jewish home, a home of shalom bayis, etc., it's not just a personal accomplishment, but this brings salvation to the whole world. It brings salvation to all of the Jewish people. And that's one of the messages behind that 5th bracha. The 6th bracha, we say samach to samach reim ahuvim. We ask Hashem to grant a lot of joy to these reim ahuvim, to this couple, to these loving friends. Kisamechacha yitzircha began edim mikedim, just like Hashem, the Creator, made just like you bestowed joy in Gan Eden. Back then in Gan Eden, again referring to Adam and Chava in Gan Eden. So just like you made Adam and Chava so happy in Gan Eden, you should also give that joy to this couple. And we say, Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed are you Hashem, Misameach Chassan v'Kala, who makes the chassan and the kala rejoice. So the Rebbe just one short explanation of the Rebbe. The Rebbe explains the word mikedem. When we say Gan Eden, we don't just say Gan Eden, but we say just like you made Adam and Chava happy, but Gan Eden mikedem. Now, mikedem could mean a couple of things, but the Rebbe says in this context, it's referring to mikedem could mean beforehand. When we say Gan Eden mikedem, we're referring to Adam and Chava before they sinned, before the Chet Eitzadas, when everything was perfect and when everything was just as it should be. And we're wishing the chassan and kala that they should have just that same joy, true joy, and that same innocence that Adam and Chava had before the Chet Eitzadas, that same purity, that same freedom, they didn't have any sins, any averos. We're wishing the same thing to the chassan and kala. We said, you started off on a new slate. We forgave you, they've been forgiven for all of their averos, starting off on that beautiful, clean new slate and wishing them that continued sort of happiness and innocence and that purity the same way that Adam and Chava had back then before Chet Eitzadas. That's the sixth bracha. And then for the final bracha, that's quite a long one. The final bracha, there is, we first list 10 different expressions of joy. We say, we bless Hashem, Asher Baruch, who created Sasain, V'simcha, Chassan v'Kala, then Gila, Rina, Ditza, Chedva, Ahava, Achva, Shalom, Vireos. So we actually have 10 different words, 10 different expressions of joy. And the Rebbe explains that this is we're benching the couple with the 10 expressions are referring to a complete joy that permeates their entire being. The 10 attributes, their entire being should be permeated with joy. And okay, I'm not going to go into all the explanations of the bracha, but we end off the final words of this bracha is Misameach Chassan in Hakala. We bless Hashem, we thank Hashem, and we bench Hashem, who makes the chassan rejoice with the kala. And the Rebbe focuses in on that wording, Misameach Chassan im Hakala. The previous bracha we said Hashem makes the chassan and kala rejoice. Misameach Chassan v'kala. Chassan and kala rejoice, which kind of connotes being that the chassan comes first. The way it's, again, if you go into the grammar and the exact specific way it's written, it would connote that the chassan is the primary one and is the main one. But when you say misameach chassan im hakala, that the chassan rejoices with the kala, the meaning behind that is that the kala is the primary, is the main one, and the chassan rejoices with her. And the Rebbe says that this is also a reference and an allusion to the time of Mashiach. That when Mashiach comes, it says nekeva to soiviv gever, the feminine, the feminine aspect of creation will be stronger and more powerful than the masculine aspect of creation. And that's why in this final bracha, it's also some sort of bracha for Mashiach's arrival. It's an allusion to Mashiach's arrival when you'll have Misameach Chassan im Hakala, when you have that nekeva to soiviv gever. So that's just, again, a small taste. There's much, much more to it, but a small taste of some of the significance of those beautiful brachas, of the Sheva brachas. Of course, after the Sheva brachas, whoever recites that last bracha drinks some of the wine, the chassan drinks some wine, the kala drinks some wine, the glass is then given to somebody else to finish, and then you wrap up the glass, the chassan steps on the glass, we say Mazel Tov, and that marks the end of the chuppah. We don't have time to continue with, yichud room and dancing or any of the other minhagim of the wedding. So I'll end up here, and I'll take some time for questions. If anybody had questions, I guess I'll try to answer those questions as best as I can. As I just want to end off with whoever, I don't know who's watching, but if we have any kalas or mothers of kalas, anybody that's are soon to be, or the Mitzvah Shem future kalas that are watching, I just want to wish you many, many brachos. I wish you a beautiful wedding. really a truly joyous wedding, and again a beautiful wedding, begashmius and beruchnius, and that all of your tefillos and everything that you request under the chuppah should be fulfilled and should be answered with a yes, and it should be really a start of a beautiful life together. Now let me see if I have any questions over here.
Yeah, hi, here we are. I'm going to ask you your questions. So first of all, thank you, Ita, for all those wonderful explanations. Truly fabulous. One question that was asked is during now when we can't have gatherings, is Sheva Brachos required? And therefore, can you differentiate between the Sheva Brachos that are under the chuppah, the Sheva Brachos that are at the end at the wedding, and the Sheva Brachos of the week? What would be required now?
All right, so I believe, as far as I understand, the Sheva Brachos, as in the week of Sheva Brachos, right? The 7 days or the 6 days after the wedding is never actually required. It is not, there's no halachic requirement ever to have, I mean, just at the wedding, right? At the wedding, you have that require, you're supposed to, you have a minyan of people and you recite the Sheva Brachos both under the chuppah and then at the end of the wedding after benching. But for the remainder of the week, there is actually never any requirement to have Sheva Brachos. What the I guess the halacha is more if during that week, when you're eating a meal, it's a bigger meal and you have a minyan of men at that meal, and one person is a panim chadashos, then when you're benching, you should recite the Sheva Brachos. But there is no requirement to actually have these additional parties or Sheva Brachos for the rest of the week. That is, that's always in all cases. So I don't know. I hope that answered the question.
Yes, that's Sheva Brachos for the whole week. And how about at the wedding itself? Is it necessary to have a minyan of 10 people having the soda after the chuppah and then having
afterwards?
Again?
I don't know. I guess you would ask a rough. So you're saying how important would that be if, let's say, you're only having a minyan at the chuppah and not afterwards? I don't know.
Okay. Well, another question was, can you say again the source for the letter you read out loud? Or possibly.
Yes, sure. So I can. I have I don't think it's printed in Igros. It's an English letter. I can actually. It's a letter again from the first day of Rosh Chodesh Tammuz Tafshin Yud, and I can send a copy of it. I don't know if you can put it up on the website or whatever, but I can send a copy of it. Yeah.
Okay, that'll be great. So if you send a copy of it, and then we will post it as a image underneath the recording. So thank you very much, Ita. That's actually all the questions that came in.
All right.
So thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing so many of you. We have continuing shiurim over the next 4 weeks. You can see the full schedule at mikvah.org/live, and join us every Wednesday at 8 o'clock for the next month. Take care. Good night, everybody.
Good night.